Hey church, I forgot the palm branch illustration in my sermon from Palm Sunday. I was just on a roll and my brain pushed it out, and when I realized it, it was too late to bring it back in to make sense in the flow of the sermon. But luckily, we can go a little bit deeper today because that's what our devotional is all about. So if you didn't watch the sermon from Forefront this past Sunday, I'll give you a little bit of context so this will make a bit more sense. We were covering the Triumphal Entry when Jesus rides into Jerusalem heading towards the cross as described in John chapter 12. And there's a lot of context around chapter 11 that will help us understand the context for the Triumphal Entry. So here's a couple things that I talked about in my sermon. First of all, the crowds wanted a conquering king. They wanted Jesus to come in and push the nation of Rome out because they were occupying their land, they were taxing them, and they were abusing the Israelites who lived in Jerusalem quite a bit. And so the crowd wanted Jesus to come in and be the anointed king who was going to restore the nation of Israel. And they wanted him to do that through an armed uprising, through a revolution. The Pharisees and the religious leaders in Jerusalem, on the other hand, wanted to maintain the status quo. They wouldn't have minded Israel to be their own nation again, but they knew that Rome was a vast nation and any armed uprising would lead to Rome coming in and just squashing it without much effort at all. And they wanted to be able to continue their Jewish religion, which Rome actually allowed them to do, which was better than some other occupying nations in the past. And so the Pharisees had wanted to kill Jesus because he was the leader of this armed uprising they thought was going to happen. And so the powder keg is set to blow as Jesus comes into Jerusalem riding that donkey, that Palm Sunday. It was during the Passover feast, and there was a powder keg that was set to blow, much like the Boston Tea Party back during the American Revolution. There were all kinds of things that the American colonies were unjustly taxed for, and the scene right before the Boston Tea Party happened was probably something like there was a massive crowd around the docks, and there were soldiers, and they were just waiting for a couple brave people to overwhelm the guards so they could enter the harbor and then toss the tea into the harbor. And so imagine that the crowd was waiting for Jesus to give the signal to revolt, to rise up and push Rome out. This is what the crowd wanted, but the Pharisees wanted peace so they could continue their religion, and they wanted to kill Jesus for being the leader of this revolution. So, this is where the palm branch comes in, and we need a history lesson of what happened about 150 years before Jesus came to understand this. So, after the prophet of Malachi finished his ministry, Malachi is the last book we have in our Old Testament, but before the time of Jesus, during the 2nd century BC, the nation of Syria was the ruling and occupying force in Jerusalem. And the king of Syria, Antiochus Epiphanes IV, he did not allow the nation of Israel to worship Yahweh like they wanted to. And he even set up a statue of himself inside the temple. So this temple dedicated to Yahweh had a temple of this foreign king in it. He also tried to reverse some things and aspects of the Torah, of God's law. He tried to reverse circumcision. He made public baths a thing, so it was very obvious if you were circumcised and you were shamed for that. And so there was a family called the Maccabean family in Jerusalem, and they led an armed revolution against the nation of Syria, and they actually won. They pushed Syria out and established the Judean national independence. Jerusalem was independent from any foreign nation for over 100 years before the time of Jesus. And this is what the celebration of Hanukkah is all about. It's a celebration of the reestablishment of the nation of Israel as their own people. And so the palm branch, during this time, became a symbol of Judean nationalism. In the exact same way that American flag with the 13 stars arranged in a circle becomes a symbol of American Revolution in the 1770s. So the palm branch is a symbol of Judean nationalism in the same way that the American flag with the 13 stars in a circle is a symbol of American nationalism. So when we come to the scene here in the Triumphal Entry, the crowd grabs these palms and starts waving them. It further solidifies the fact that they want Jesus to become their king, to push out Rome so that they can be their own nation again. This is also why Jesus came on a donkey instead of a horse. Jesus was trying to reset their expectations of what they wanted him to do, because a horse was a weapon of war. And if he would have rode a horse in, he might as well have signaled the revolution then and there. But a donkey was a humble beast of burden. It carries your stuff from one place to another and plows your fields. So Jesus was trying to tell the crowd that his intent was to bring life through his death, not death through a war. Jesus wanted to be their king, but a prince of peace and the king of kings, not in any way a conquering king. But the crowd wouldn't hear it, and so a week later the Pharisees succeed in killing him because the crowd still wanted him to be their revolutionary king. So if you haven't seen the sermon from Palm Sunday, I invite you to go watch it. The whole live stream is still up on the Forefront Facebook page and YouTube as well. And I believe soon, maybe today or later on, that just the sermon will be posted in its entirety. So thanks for watching. As always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you next time.